Hello, my reading group. I hope you enjoyed the story for this week about Jack and the Beanstalk. I thought it was pretty cute, and I like the illustrations in it. I thought those were pretty neat too. So we have this page to do, page 223 in our packet. It's on story structure, and we have a couple questions to answer. So we're going to work on that together. So here we go. Let me do this. Okay, so again, I've gotten some of your guys' retellings back, like to retell the story, and you guys are doing awesome on that with a lot of detail, so that's really good. Again, it's a fairy tale. It has a beginning, middle, and end of the story. There's a problem. They have to solve the problem, and there's usually a happy ending. So that is that. So Jack and the Beanstalk. So hopefully you read this. Our first two questions on this page are from pages 144 to 146 in the book. So I'm going to get to those pages. Oh, this is the first page. So we're going to quickly read this, or I'm going to read this to you, and then we're going to answer the question. So here we go. Once upon a time, a boy named Jack lived with his mother in a poor little hut. What money they had for food came from selling milk from their cow, Musetta. Ooh, clever name, Musetta. But when old Musetta stopped giving milk, they knew they would have to sell her. So Jack and the cow hiked into the village. Hours later, Jack returned alone with a handful of beans. Beans? Beans. You've got to be kidding me, yelled Jack's mother. You were supposed to sell Musetta for money. Beans can't buy food. But the beans are so pretty, said Jack. This is a mess, sighed his mother. Jack went outside and planted the pretty beans in a sunny spot. He gave them a drink of water. Maybe, just maybe, they would grow. And grow they did. Overnight, the seeds had sprouted. By morning, they had wound into a beautiful beanstalk. How did it grow so fast, wondered Jack. It had grown up, 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 and out of sight beyond the clouds. Wowie! Exclaimed Jack. Being a curious lad, he simply had to climb it. Where would the beanstalk lead? He went up and up, higher and higher, until he went beyond the clouds. So those are our pages. And the first question is, what is Jack's problem? If you notice that on the very first page that I read, on page 144, on the page that I read and that you read, it says that Jack lived with his mom in a poor little hut. What money they had for food came from selling milk from their cow. So they lived in a poor hut. They had this cow that they got milk from, and they would sell the milk for money, but then the cow is out of milk. It's not giving them any milk, so that means that they're not getting any money. Okay, so what's the problem here? They live in a poor hut, and they're not getting any money from the cow. So that means that they're not getting any food. So that's a big problem. And so then your next question is, how does he try to solve his problem? Okay, so it's actually almost, well, it is almost two questions. Two questions on this one. How does he try to solve his problem? Well, he brings the cow into village. He brings the cow into the village to sell it. His mom's thinking that he's going to come back with money, but instead he comes back with beans. So on these 3 pages, How does he try to solve his problem? Well, he tries to go sell the cow for money, to get money for food. Does it work? No, because he doesn't get any money. He gets beans. Okay, so that's those first couple questions. And when it says explain with evidence, that means to explain with parts from the story. So like I said, my evidence that I used was that he went to the village to sell the cow for money. It didn't work because he didn't bring money back. He brought back beans. So that's evidence from the story. That's parts of the story. So tell me Jack's problem. Okay. Tell me how he tries to solve that problem of being poor and not having milk from the cow and not having money for food. So tell me how he tries to solve that problem and does it work? So it says 2 questions on there, but there's actually 3 questions, okay? On that first part. Perfect. And then we go from pages 150 to from 150 to 152. Let me get those. Sometimes when I talk a lot on here, then I need water. I start coughing. Okay, here we go. 150 to 152 we're gonna read. And we have the questions, we have these questions to answer. What do we learn about the giant by the end of the story? Use evidence to explain. So what evidence do we have from the story? And how do these events help resolve the story's conflict? A couple big words there, resolve and conflict. When we resolve something, we fix it, okay? And when there's a conflict, that means that there's a problem, okay? So here we go. The next morning, Jack eagerly climbed the beanstalk. He wondered what treasures awaited him. Oh dear, he did not find what he had expected. Fee-fi-fo-fum, where on earth did you come from? From down on earth, replied Jack. Well, I came up my beanstalk, which is in earth. You see, I gave it sunshine and water but the giant was not interested in Jack's gardening skills. He was hungry. Jack, being nimble and quick, hurried down the beanstalk. As the giant followed and was halfway down, Jack grabbed an axe, whacked the beanstalk, and splat. My toes hurt, whimpered the giant, and how will I get home? I'll show you, said Jack kindly. First, he showed the giant how to water the beanstalk. Together they cared for the plant. It grew up and beyond the clouds. Now the giant could climb home, and Jack bought Musetta back. He returned everything he had taken from the giant. The gentle giant told his new friends they could keep the goose. From that day on, Jack, his mother, the goose, and Musetta had plenty to eat and lived happily ever after. Once in a while, they invited the giant down for a giant feast. These feasts always included plenty of leafy beanstalk greens. So, your first question is, what do you learn about the giant by the end of the story? Well, the giant is, even though sometimes you think, oh, giant, like seeing a giant would be so scary, but the giant in our story, he's pretty kind and nice and friendly. And I want you to tell me how you know this. Can you tell that he's kind in the pictures or by the words that he is saying in the story? And then how do the events that happen in this story, growing the beanstalk, meeting the giant, how do all of those events help solve the story's conflict? Well, the story's conflict was that the mom and the son were poor. They didn't have money for food. So that's the conflict. That's the problem. And how did that get? How we want to answer? How did that get resolved? How did that get fixed? So it says on this page that they got to keep. Where does it say right here? It says, the gentle giant told his new friends they could keep the goose. From that day on, Jack, his mother, the goose, and Musetta had plenty to eat and lived happily ever after. So they were able to keep the goose, and that meant that they are no longer poor. They have enough to eat, and they can live happily ever after. So learning how kind the giant is and friendly and caring, this shows us that the conflict of being poor and not having enough to eat was resolved by getting the goose and by the kindness of the giant. So that is our first story for the week. We have a second story called Jackie and the Beanstalk, and I will have another video for our comprehension for that page. So thank you for watching. I hope your reading is going very well.